And Jeff, our next guest, Wes Wood, knows a thing or two about all these topics, and that's founder and president of Wood Financial Group, a retirement income store located just outside of Nashville. He's also the host of his own TV show, The Retirement Income Show, airing every Saturday morning on News Channel 5 in Nashville. Wes, as usual, great to have you here on The Income Generation.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here today.
Wes, retirement forms are on deck in Congress. The Secure Act 2.0, some changes. They want to increase the RMD to age 75. How do you see that impacting your customers and all retirees across America?
Oh, well, specifically regarding the RMD age to 75, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. What it's going to really allow our clients to do that aren't needing money or income out of their portfolio yet, obviously they can now wait a couple of years before they're forced to take those distributions out. And the benefit of that, of course, is if they're not forced to take those distributions out until 75 instead of 72, it just allows their money to continue to grow and accumulate and build tax deferred until they're going to be forced to at that later date if it gets passed.
So if the money grows, so does the tax then too, correct?
Well, that is true. So obviously, if there's more money in the pot, in the IRA, in the qualified account at 75 instead of 72, the distribution is going to be a higher dollar amount, which will, of course, impact their tax return at that age and make them pay more in income taxes for sure.
Not to get too political on you, but let's mix it up a little bit. Do you really think that Congress has the intent of helping a retiree by deferring the RMD to 75? Or do you think they're doing this to take the pressure off required distributions coming out of the stock market, Wes?
Yeah, that's a tricky thing to answer. But I will say I do not believe it's the intent of Congress to save on taxes. They need the revenue, they need the tax income coming in. But also there could be a little bit of fact that, hey, if we start going into a sideways or down market, Congress has in the past forgiven RMDs for a year. So perhaps this is a way to make it to where people aren't forced to take distributions out at an earlier date and time when out of the stock market. So, looking at the history of RMDs and when they have been forgiven in the past in down markets, for instance, the first COVID that we experienced in 2020 where they forgave RMDs, maybe there's a little bit of that, but I believe it's probably more the fact that, hey, it will increase tax revenues in the future.
And at the end of the day, people can always take distributions at age 70 or 72. So this just gives them more flexibility, but they could take them earlier where they want the money, or even if they want to do some Roth conversions to maybe take that increased tax sting that Jeff was referring to on the back end and reduce it.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask you, so what do you think about this? Politics aside, what do you think about this concept of charging FICA taxes now on salaries up to the current limit, skipping a band, and then again charging FICA taxes on salaries over $400,000?
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth it to even put a dent in shoring up the Social Security Trust Fund, or is it a political hot potato?
Well, something's going to have to happen with the Social Security Trust Fund, because as it sees right now, odds are in the year 2035 we're going to see a reduction in benefits by nearly 20%. And that's if Congress does absolutely nothing and sits on their hands. So imagine somebody's collecting $2,000 a month. Well, then all of a sudden they're going to see a reduction down to $1,600 a month. So something needs to happen in order to restore the solvency of the system. So I believe this is one thing that can be done to help put more money into the trust fund and help make sure that there's more money out there to pay benefits. It's not going to cure the problem, but it may at least kick that can down the road. Instead of the year 2035, perhaps it'll bump it out a few years.
It's a tough one. Well, Wes, we'll have to have you back on once we know whether or not this gets passed through all channels. So as usual, it's great to have you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.